Okay, so ordering real numbers. So we're going to be comparing irrational numbers. That's going to be the first thing that we talk about. So in order to do that, we need to think about how we were able to order irrational numbers, like how we could estimate them. So this is the example we're going to start with. We're going to compare the square root of 3 plus 5 and see how does that compare to 3 plus the square root of 5. And then the problems that they're giving you is greater than, less than, or equal that you're going to put into this circle. All right, so just a reminder, right, if you see this symbol, right, the less goes on the small side, right, and here's the alligator, and he wants to eat the greater side. So whatever side the alligator is going to eat is the side that should be greater. Okay, so right, the first thing we have to do is kind of approximate these non-perfect square roots. So if you remember, how we wanted to do that, right, is we want to put 1, right, that's the square root of 1. 2 is the square root of 4. 3 is the square root of 9. And so if we do that, then we can use these perfect squares, right? So this is kind of what they're doing. We're going to approximate the square root of 3, and we can see the square root of 3 is between 1 and 4. So the square root of 3, right, is between 1 and 2. And we can also estimate and see that, right, the square root of 5, which is on the other side of this, right? So we're going to compare square root of 3 plus 5 to 3 plus the square root of 5. And so here's the square root of 5, and we can see that's going to be a little bit more than 2. So the square root of 5, right, is between 2 and 3. So the square root of 3 is between 1 and 2, and the square root of 5 is between 2 and 3. So now the way that your book kind of explains it right here, they don't really show the steps. So that's what I created this document for, to take notes in, right, is, right, this is the problem right here. And they're asking us, right, to compare the square root of 3 plus 5 to 3 plus the square root of 5 and figure out which side is greater or less than, or maybe they are equal. So oftentimes some students will just like add these two numbers. Okay, it's not 3 plus 5, it's the square root of 3 plus 5. And so, right, I'm going to type in here, right, the square root of 3 is between 1 and 2. Right, so the square root of 3 is between 1 and 2. And from our previous notes, the square root of 5, right, which we just wrote that down in the book, right, the square root of 5 is between 2 and 3, right? So now we can use this kind of information to help us estimate. So, right, this is the part you have to think. You have to think, hey, what is 3? What is 3 between? What are the perfect square roots that 3 is between? It's between the perfect square root of 1, the perfect square root of 4, which is 2, right? And 5 is between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, which is 2 and 3. And then, right, now we need to simplify this expression. So, right, I'm going to copy and paste these down here because otherwise, right, and I'm going to copy and paste. All right, so, right, the square root of 3 is between 1 and 2. So it's the square root of 3 plus 5. So it's either 1 plus 5, and we all know that 1 plus 5 is 6, right? Or, right, the greatest that it could be, because the square root of 3 is between 1 and 2, is 2 plus 5. So that is 7. Right, so now we know that the square root of 3 is between, right, and I'm going to pick, I need a different color. Good. Between 6 and 7. Right, so we know this is between these two values. Okay. Now, we can do the same thing here, right? We know the square root of 5 is between 2 and 3. And so that means that 3 plus the square root of 5 is going to be between 5 and